This week, we'll gather with families, or maybe we'll be on our own, but the whole nation seems to be attuned to giving thanks. And so I got to thinking about this week and about what can I speak in light of this week that's coming. It got me thinking about gratitude and thanksgiving. It got me thinking about what happens when we gather together as families and what happens to those who do not have families, and what stories might help us as we enter the week. Now, I do recognize that for so many, it's just a good day off, and we all need a day off, a day of rest, right? And then the other interesting thing about Thanksgiving is that then immediately following that, we all tend to get on a holiday mode. So there's that dynamic at play. And I have my own questions about the day itself, right? There's some interesting critiques from indigenous peoples and all the history around this day and how we might need to celebrate it in a different way. But I still think it's good that we have a day set aside for gratitude. A day where we get to reflect on the blessings that are many around us. And even if it seems a bit bleak or a bit hopeless, what might it look like to just spend one moment reflecting on what we might be thankful for? In today's story, Jesus is encountered by 10 men who are ill. Now, these men have been ill for a long time. Their disease has pushed them away from their common life, from their families, from their religious communities. They are pariahs in their community, and they hang out with one another because that's all they got. Jesus comes into the picture, and they are desperate to be healed. You can just imagine, just for a moment, if your situation is hopeless and desperate, if there's something going on in your life that separates you from all that you know and from all that you love and from all that is good in the world, you can imagine that sense of desperation is so real for these who encountered Jesus on that day. And Jesus, actually, it's an interesting story because Jesus doesn't seem to have any kind of major dramatic healing moment here. He says to them, go and show yourself to the priest. Go and do the thing that you need to do in order to be restored into community. He doesn't say you're healed. He doesn't put his hands on them and does any kind of ritual act. He just says, go. And all of them, seemingly without asking any questions, get going. They go on the journey. They go on their way. And as the text tells us, as they're going on the way, they begin to look at themselves, and the sign of the disease is no longer there. So, of the 10, 9 continue on their journey to show themselves to the priest. 9 are going to get the certification so that they can be quickly restored to the community, so that they can be given the okay to return to their lives towards flourishing. They are desperate. They have been waiting for this. Many of them probably thought that this would never happen, and so they go, but one decides to go back to Jesus. 1 of 10 returns. And he returns for one simple reason. He just wants to say thank you to Jesus. It's an interesting story, isn't it? And it might seem at first like an obvious thing, right? We should all, because Jesus asked this man, where are the other 9? Weren't 10 healed? Where are the other 9? And so it might seem obvious to us to gather and say, well, yes, we should be thankful. We should be the one who returns. And certainly, yes, that can be so. But the reality of it is that in our lives, so often when we find ourselves in the midst of the difficulties of life and in places of despair and hopelessness, we might be so taken by what has happened, by our restoration, by our healing, by our no longer being bound in these ways, that it's not that we're ungrateful. It's just that we're so excited and ready for continued flourishing that it just kind of passes our minds. Like a child on a Christmas morning who opens a gift and is so excited about that gift, or like a surprise visit from a friend, or like so many other of the things that could happen in our lives. We get so caught up in them that we don't even reflect upon them at all. And so it could be this week that we purposely slow down a bit. Now, I know how busy it can be in moments like this, right? There's people coming from out of town, and there's a place or places you have to go, get in a car and go, and there's things to cook, and there's people to see, and there are children to care for, and there are things you have to kind of get down the checklist, and so we might get so caught up in life on that day that the one reason what we gather might never happen. We might be so worried about who we're going to see when we gather around table, that weird uncle or that sibling we struggle with, or the family member that we haven't seen in 20 years, that we might forget to slow down enough and pay attention to the many ways in the last year that we have experienced healing and wholeness and new life, to the many ways in which we've had moments of divine life appearing before us, to the many ways that even on the most difficult moments of our lives, that little by little, here we are, aren't we? We rolled out of bed in the morning and we're attempting to live our lives. The question for us this time is, can we slow down enough to pay attention and not to hurry, but to reflect? So it could very well be that before you put the turkey in the oven, and before you get in the car to go visit grandma, or before you welcome your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids to your house, that maybe on Thursday you might take one small moment and maybe sit in front of a piece of paper and begin to reflect, what am I really thankful for? Just for you. What am I thankful for? Just for you. Where are the places where you have seen divine life at work in your life in the last year? What relationships have been life-giving? What encounters have brought you a new perspective? What aspects of life have surprised you in beautiful ways? Just for one moment, you slow down a bit and you return to Jesus. And you look at Jesus in the eye and you recognize how divine love has come visiting. And that does something amazing in us. Because in a world so full of despair and hurt and harm and negativity, that action, that moment opens up possibility before us. I often tell my children when they get a bit whiny that, what are you thankful for? What's happening around you that it's good? Because all of us can get like that, right? Can get a bit negative. But that exercise all of a sudden kind of frees us from the day-to-day stuff that we're not happy with, and it begins to provide us an imagination of goodness and grace and mercy and possibility right before us. We don't know what happened to this guy long ago. My hunch is that after he gave thanks to Jesus, he went to the priest and got certified healed. And he lived his life. But that moment of encounter changed everything. He didn't just get cured from his disease. He found healing for his soul. So it very well could be that this year, this Thanksgiving, if you take one little moment, you look around and you reflect, you might find one thing that you're filled with gratitude about. May that be a seedling to a year ahead that's full of wonder and awe and possibility and imagination. May that be a seedling for an encounter with divine life in the everyday of life for you and for all those you encounter along life's way. Thanks be to God. Amen.